Hi friends, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. So greetings from India. So how you people are doing?
Great, sir.
Okay, that's good to hear. So can I start my presentation?
No, sir, just a minute.
Okay,
We'll be
fine.
introducing, then you can start.
Yeah, sure.
Ma'am, shall I start?
Yes, Mohsina, you can start.
Okay, ma'am. The very famous French scientist and microbiologist Louis Pasteur once said, "Science knows no country because knowledge belongs to humanity and it is the torch which illuminates the world." Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu, and a very insightful evening to one and all present here. Today, we all have gathered here to experience and explore something incredible, something fantastic, as we head towards the third and the last day of our Science Week 2021. We would also be live streaming this in YouTube. So, without any further ado, let's get started. Prayer makes the day powerful. I now welcome Salma Firoz from 11F for the Holy Quran recitation and its translation.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. Translation. Say, He is Allah, the one and only, Allah, the eternal refuge. He neither begets nor is born, nor is there to him any equivalent. Thank you.
Thank you, Salma. To add on shine and glitters to this remarkable journey, we have a very special personage with us today. May I welcome Fidatiyar to introduce the chief guest.
Good afternoon, everyone. Myself, Vidatiyar. I begin by expressing my gratitude to our chief guest, Dr. Vinod Kumar Selvaraj, for gracing our third and last day of Side Talk with his presence. Dr. Selvaraj will be enlightening us regarding beneficial microorganisms, a potential for eco-friendly agriculture. Mr. Selvaraj acquired his BSc and MSc in agriculture and PhD in plant pathology from Tamil Nadu Agricultural University in Coimbatore, India, and earned his postdoctorate from the prestigious Dalhousie University of Canada. He has published numerous papers and researches, mostly regarding microbiology and agriculture. Dr. Selvaraj is also the recipient of numerous awards. In 2018, he won the Best Research Paper Award issued by the National Academy of Biological Sciences for the research paper entitled Diversity and Antiviral Potential of Rhizospheric and Endophytic Bacillus Species and Phytoantiviral Principles against Tobacco Streak Virus in Cotton. In 2017, he won the Best Research Paper Award for the research paper entitled Biocontrol Potentials of Antimicrobial Peptide-Producing Bacillus Species, and in 2016 was awarded the P.R. Verma Award for PhD students. Dr. Selvaraj was also the recipient of Professor K. Ramakrishnan Award and Sri V.P. Ganeshan Award, both issued by Tamil Nadu Agricultural University for the best outgoing PhD student. He is also an excellent microsharp photographer and has captured stunning images of plants and plant diseases. Dr. Selvaraj is currently a faculty of Agricultural Sciences in SRM Institute of Science and Technology of Chennai. I feel extremely honored to attend a session conducted by such a great personality, and I hope all of us enjoy and benefit from it. Thank you.
Thank you, Fida. I now welcome our Honorable HOD of Science, Mrs. Reshma Rahman ma'am, to address the gathering.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Good afternoon, everyone. Hello, sir.
Hello, madam. How are you?
Indeed, I'm fine. I'm fine. So thank you, sir. Indeed, it's like we are very much delighted reading your profile and hearing to your profile. It's wonderful to have a person like you today with us, sir, because our students may not be able to visit that place in person, but then and that too, we are going to hear from you on a very important subject, agriculture, and then how agriculture can be brought up without the usage of chemicals. We are so happy to have you here, sir. Thank you for accepting our invitation, and we hope to have more such sessions in future with you. Thank you for joining with us, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. It is a pleasure for me to deliver a talk. So, of course, this is my first time I'm interacting with the students. So I have been taking some classes for the students here in the college, but this is the first time I'm interacting with this school students. So I'm also very much excited and very much eager to make some good interaction.
Sure, sir. Thank you. Thank you. We'll continue. Okay.
Thank you, ma'am. I now welcome respectable Mr. Vinod Kumar Selvaraj, sir, our chief guest, to share with us his valuable thoughts and oration about beneficial microorganisms, a potential for eco-friendly agriculture.
Thank you. So can I share my screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay, is the screen visible?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. So that was a brief introduction. Thank you so much for the introduction. So the talk is about the beneficial microorganisms. So I think like the introduction is sufficient. So I'm just skipping this slide. So coming to the subject. So what about the early agriculture? So in the early agriculture, the early human beings, initially they were a kind of nomads, right? So they were just moving from one place to another place in search of food. And they were just leading a nomadic life. Then they just, they were actually hunters. So they never started farming before like 10,000 years. There was no farming. So they were just hunters. They killed the animals. So then slowly the civilizations, they started to grow. So they invented the fire and then a lot of things. So they invented a lot of things and slowly the civilization, it started to grow. So then it was the start of the agriculture. So like 10,000 years from now, so like before 10,000 years, so the very first agriculture, it started. So the people, they started to grow something near the riverbeds. So as we all know, some of the oldest civilizations, like the Egyptian civilization, Mesopotamian civilization, and then Indus Valley civilization, as well as the Chinese civilization. So all of them, so they flourished in the riverbeds. So in the school, you should have studied the rivers are the cradles for the civilizations. So because the people, they started to settle near the river banks. So when they started to settle, they just wanted to cultivate something. So they wanted to cultivate the plants so that they can get some food. So instead of moving from one place to another place, they wanted to settle. So the river banks, so they are the good source for water as well as food. So in the river, you can just get a lot of fish as well as you can just get the water. So that is most necessary for agriculture. To cultivate a plant, we need plenty of water. So that's why the people, they begin to settle in the riverbeds. So slowly the agriculture, it started to grow. So until now, like the people, they were performing agriculture. So a lot of improvements in the tools as well as equipments, as well as the technology. So everything has been improved. So even nowadays, we are having some kind of mobile applications. So we can just sit in our home and we can just activate the water pump or some irrigation system, as well as nutrient and fertilizer application system. We can just access it through the mobile phones, and we can just visualize the farm through the drones, and we can apply the chemicals as well as fertilizers through drones. So it's a kind of growth in the field of agriculture. So that is the thing, like from the early agriculture until now. So what happened? So agriculture, it is a way of life. So it's not just a job or something like that. It is a way of life. So most of the countries, So they are performing agriculture. So in case of India, so almost like the 80% of the population, so they are involved in agriculture. So either directly or indirectly, so they are involved in agriculture. So without the farmers, there is no food. So the farmers, they are really doing a great job. So without them, we don't have any kind of food. So it is a kind of thing that is from field to plate. So in this picture, you can see the farmers, they are planting the rice seedlings. So it's a kind of transplanting. So transplanting in the sense like initially they will sow the seeds in the some restricted small area. So from that they used to separate the seedlings and then they used to transplant. So this is a common practice followed for some kind of crops, especially in case of rice as well as some of the vegetables like tomato, brinjal, and these things. So like you can see how much labor is needed and how much water is utilized there. So almost like in order to cultivate rice, it will take like 100 to 140 days. So during this time period, so it's a plenty of time period, right? So it's like 120 to 140 days. So during that period, so we have to sow the seeds and then the plants will start to germinate. So like we need to provide utmost care to the plants. So we have to provide the water, we have to provide them with the nutrients. So we have to supply the fertilizers and then we have to apply the agrochemicals. So agrochemicals in the sense, we need to apply some kind of chemicals in order to control the pest as well as diseases. So, you know, like there will be some kind of insects in the agriculture field. So these insects, so that is the interesting thing comes here. So there are two different kind of insects as well as microorganisms. So one set of things, they are like a kind of beneficial insects as well as microorganisms. So others are kind of harmful things. So these harmful insects as well as microorganisms, so these insects, they will just start feeding over the plant. So that will reduce the quality of the plant. So the plant will reduce the yield. So when the leaves of the plant are eaten by the insects, or when the leaves of the plants are infected with some kind of harmful microorganisms, so what will happen? So, you know, like photosynthesis. So the leaves are much more important for carrying the photosynthesis. So photosynthesis, so what will happen during photosynthesis? Can someone say me? So you can interact. So what happens during photosynthesis?
So the light energy from the sun is used to convert carbon dioxide to oxygen and prepare glucose.
Yeah, excellent. So that is the thing. So the final product will be a kind of starch. So that is being manufactured by the plants. So what will happen when this powerhouse or this workhouse of the plant is being infected? So they will not be able to perform its normal function. So when they are not able to perform the normal function, ultimately their yield, so the rice grains, so whatever may be the type of plant, so maybe a tomato plant, so the fruit or a tree or whatever it is. So the produce, the seeds and the fruits as well as the grains, whatever it is producing, so that will get reduced. So when these things are getting reduced, we will get reduced yield all over. So there will be a shortage for the food material. So that is the thing what is happening. Okay, so these agrochemicals are applied in order to manage these insects as well as microorganisms. So these are the package of practices so that are performed during the agriculture from seed to seed. So the seed which you sow as well as the seed which you harvest. So during this time period, so all these package of practices need to be carried out. So, and another important management practice is about the weeding. So the weeds are something like the unwanted plants that will be growing along the field. So when we are cultivating a rice plant, so there will be a lot of unnecessary grasses that will be growing inside the field. So that need to be removed. So that's a process called weeding. So these are all the different kind of package of practices. So that need to be performed all throughout these time period whenever the crop is growing. So it's a very, very laborious and an expensive as well as it's a very difficult task. So we should always appreciate the farmers whenever we are having the food. So it's a great thing, right? Okay, so that's about some general idea about agriculture because I'm not sure like how about your thoughts about agriculture. So I just wanted to give some general idea. So now coming to the diseases. So what is the importance of diseases? So why we need to study about disease? So my field of specialization is with plant pathology. So that is the study of the plant diseases. as well as how the pathogens, so pathogens in the sense the microorganisms. So these microorganisms that are the harmful microorganisms. So how these harmful microorganisms are causing some kind of disease, and how they are entering into the plant system, how they are making the plant weak, as well as how they are causing these disease, and what are all the management practices, how we can manage these kind of diseases, how we can reduce the growth of the harmful microorganisms. So that all these things are covered under plant pathology. Okay, so what is the importance of disease in the agriculture crop? So like annual crop loss due to insects as well as microorganisms, so diseases, so it's like almost 30 to 35%. So it's a worldwide thing. So like the remaining thing may be like the transport, storage, as well as other problems. So maybe something like due to natural disaster or other things. But a large ratio of thing is mostly due to the insects as well as diseases. So in this picture, you can see this is a rice field. So taken in some place in the South India. So I can see the rice field. So in the center, you can see some of the plants, they are dried and they have turned brown. So it is due to a kind of disease. So when you see them in the close-up, you can see these leaves. So they are having some kind of brown spot-like things. So this disease is called as rice brown spot. So these pathogens, so they are a kind of fungi. So, you know, like there are a lot of microorganisms. So fungi, bacteria, virus, phytoplasma, as well as viroids. So a lot of type of microorganisms are there. You should have studied in your science subject. So this disease is caused due to a fungi. Okay, so it will cause a disease in the leaves, as well as it will also cause some kind of grain discoloration in the rice. So rice is one of the important staple food all over India. Most of the people, they will have the rice. So that's the reason why I'm having this picture here. So this disease, it will be affecting both the leaves as well as the seeds. So here you can see the discolored seeds as well as the leaves. So this will lead to a lot of yield loss. So it is a real thing. So like during the 1940 to 1945, so there was a huge famine in India. So that is a very famous famine. So it is called as Bengal famine. So that it was in the West Bengal, the state of West Bengal. So like a million of people, like millions of people, they died without food. So they starved without food. So in the picture in the right side, you can see plenty of people, they were dead in the streets of the Bengal. So you can see a lot of vultures. So they are just scavenging over the dead humans. So it's a very painful thing to see. So these people, they were starving to death without food. So that was mainly due to this rice brown spot disease. So this disease, it's a very, very important, historically important disease. So now you can imagine like what a disease can do to people, to the human community. Okay, so that's why I just wanted to show you this thing. So similar to this rice brown spot disease, so some other important crop plants like potato. So in case of the European countries, they will consume a lot of potatoes. So potatoes is a staple food in the European countries. So as well as the corn, so that is the maize. So and then the wheat. So most of the people all around the world, they will consume wheat. So wheat is a very, very important crop. So we are making bread out of that, right? As well as rye. So barley. So we are also making bread out of the rye as well as barley. So these are some of the important crop plants around the world. So they are some kind of staple food things in some kind of location. So probably a country or a continent or something like that. So there are some kind of specific diseases in these crops, so that are having some great economic importance. So economic importance in the sense, like when they are infecting the plants will no more be able to grow and the yield will be drastically reduced. So when the yield is drastically reduced, so there will be a reduction in the yield of the produce, so that the people, they will be starving for the food. So these are some of the important diseases. Okay, so here you can see like a potato. So the disease is called as late blight. So in case of rice, so this is a disease, it is called as blast disease in case of rice. So in case of maize, so it is downy mildew disease. In case of wheat, the rust disease. So you can see the symptom, it is looking like a rust pustule. So like you know what is meant by rust. So if you are having some kind of iron material in your house, so if you are just keeping it just open for a long time, or sometimes when it is getting in contact with the water frequently, you will be able to see a kind of rusting in the iron. Okay, so you can compare this kind of symptom with that of the rusted appearance. So it will be more or less similar to that. So that's how the disease got the name rust. So these are some of the economically important diseases across various crop plants. Okay, so these are some of the diseases. So in order to curtail these diseases, as well as in order to boost the growth of the plants, as well as in order to increase the yield in the plants, so the Green Revolution was proposed. So the person who proposed the Green Revolution is Norman Borlaug. So Norman Borlaug, he's a US citizen. So like he is an agronomist. So he's an agriculturalist as well as he's an agronomist. So he was regarded as the father of Green Revolution. So he even got the Nobel Peace Prize for his contributions in the agriculture. So Green Revolution was proposed by him to the world. Okay, so Norman Borlaug. So in case of India, so the father of Green Revolution is M.S. Swaminathan. So what is Green Revolution? Do you have any idea? Have you ever heard about Green Revolution?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so may I know like what you know about the Green Revolution?
It happened in 1950s in West Bengal, Punjab, and Uttar Pradesh.
Okay, so what is Green Revolution exactly?
Using innovative, high-yielding variety seeds and fertilizers to increase yield of wheat, mainly wheat plant.
We were able to increase a greater amount of yield all over the parts of the country.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, so that is the thing. So the Green Revolution, so it is actually the introduction of the short duration crops. So short duration crops of some like rice or wheat, as well as dwarf varieties. So instead of growing the plant so much tall, so that is a kind of vegetative growth. So we don't want the vegetative growth. We need the reproductive growth, right? So we need the seeds or the fruits or whatever the produce of the plant. We do not want any leaves or the vegetative growth. So the reduction in the vegetative growth as well as the increase in the reproductive growth. So reduction in the time period of the plant. So these things are the most important concepts of Green Revolution. Along with that, so it is the new innovations like delivery of the innovations as well as technologies for agriculture. So like the introduction of the fertilizers as well as agrochemicals. So when we are applying more fertilizer as well as agrochemicals, definitely it will boost the yield. So the plants, they will be producing a lot of grains or a lot of fruits, so whatever it is. So they will produce a lot of produce. So that is the concept of Green Revolution. And when we are applying the agrochemicals, so when we are controlling the insects as well as microorganisms, so what will happen? So like the plant need not to struggle. So if you are having some kind of issue, so if someone is helping you to solve the issue, so you can concentrate on what you want to do, right? So the same thing with the plants also. So when we are applying the nutrients as well as when we are applying the agrochemicals, we are taking care of the plant. So in its stress conditions, so whether it can be any kind of biotic or abiotic stress. So biotic stress in the sense, it is the stress that is caused by the live organism. So like an insect or a microorganism. So abiotic in the sense, it may be a kind of anything like a flood or drought stress or freezing injury or some kind of sunburns or whatever it is. So when we are taking care of these things, the plants will automatically, it will be growing better. It will be producing more produce. So the rice plant or the wheat plant, they will be producing more grains. So that is the concept. So these two scientists, they are most important people in the field of agriculture. So they introduced the Green Revolution. And M.S. Swaminathan, he is a very most renowned geneticist. So like his contribution is also like immense in the field of agriculture. So he has got a lot of awards from the Indian government, like Padma Bhushan, Padma Vibhushan. So he's a great scientist. So this is what the concept of Green Revolution, and this is what happened. So the people, they were starving without food, and the Green Revolution came, and then the people, they were getting more amount of food materials. So it's a kind of boost for the agriculture. So that's fine. Okay, but what happens now? So like we are overutilizing the fertilizers. So we are applying like too much of chemicals. So it's there should be an optimum level for everything. But nowadays, so initially, like when the green revolution was proposed, so none of the farmers were ready to take up the technology. So they don't want to apply urea or potassium or the single superphosphate, whatever it is. So this phosphorus, potassium, and nitrogen. So these three nutrients are the major nutrients that are required for the growth of the plants. So these three nutrients, they will be supplied in various combinations, like various ratios. So that is, a ratio will be different for different crop plants. So for rice or maize, it will be different. So the people earlier times, they were not ready to take up these things. So when the green revolution was proposed, and it was very hard for the government, even for the Indian government, it was very hard to make the farmers trust that it will work good. So then the people slowly, they started taking up the fertilizers. So they are a kind of inorganic fertilizers. So slowly what happened, the people relied on that too much. So they started utilizing the fertilizers as well as the agrochemicals too much, and the application was in an uncontrolled manner. So they were over-utilizing these agrochemicals as well as nutrients. So what's happening? So when we are over-utilizing the nutrients, so the plants will be growing like too much lush green. So sometimes when we are over-applying the nutrients, sometimes the vegetative growth will be more and the reproductive growth will be less. And when there is a more vegetative growth, it will be attracting a lot of insects as well as diseases, right? So that's another concept. So most importantly, with the agrochemicals, so what's happening? We are applying a lot of chemicals for the agricultural crops. So we are consuming it, right? So there should be a proper regulation. So like almost like 30 to 15 to 30 days, or at least like 40 days. So when we are going to harvest a plant or like a crop, tree, fruits, or whatever it is, we should never apply the chemicals. So that's a kind of thumb rule, but no one is following that. So they are applying a lot of chemicals and herbicides as well as insecticides. So insecticides, they will be applied for the control of insects, fungicides for the control of fungi, so harmful microorganism, as well as bactericides in order to control the bacteria. So we are applying a lot of chemicals. So we are consuming it, right? So there should be some residual toxicity. So you know what is meant by residual toxicity. So that is the thing, like the chemicals that will be remaining in the plant tissue. So it will take some time in order to, for the plants, in order to let out the chemicals out of the plant tissue. So the residual toxicity will be higher when we are applying a lot of chemicals. So we are consuming it. So we are also accidentally consuming the chemicals. So ultimately there will be a problem with our health. So like here you can see an apple a day keeps the doctor away. But what we are doing now is like we are having our daily poison, because the apple, it is completely sprayed with a lot of chemicals. So even the chemicals, they will be affecting the beneficial microorganisms as well as insects. So in the picture here, you can see a honeybee. So what is the primary role of honeybee?
To produce honey, pollen grains.
Pollination.
Yeah, so pollination. So pollination is a very, very important function in the agro ecosystem. So without pollination, there won't be any seed set and there won't be any produce. So pollination is very, very important. So the honeybees, they are like what to say, like they are free laborers. So they are like doing the pollination without getting anything from us, right? And they are in turn also, they are giving us a lot of honey. So they are a kind of beneficial insects, right? So then the spiders. So you should have seen a lot of spiders in the agricultural field. So these spiders, so they are also beneficial insects. So these spiders, they never harm the plants. So the spiders always, they will feed over other insects. And you should have seen a lot of ladybird beetles. So the ladybird beetles, so they are also a kind of beneficial insects. So they never harm the plants. So they will be feeding over the other harmful insects. And there should be a lot of invisible microorganisms. So a lot of microorganisms are present in the agro ecosystem, in the leaf, inside the plant. So they may be an ectophyte or an endophyte. Ectophyte in the sense it will be present over the surface of the plant. Endophyte means they will be present inside the plant. And then some rhizospheric microorganisms. So rhizospheric microorganism means, rhizo means root. So sphere means the portion that is near to the root. So this rhizospheric microorganisms, they will be present in the soil near the root zone. So there will be a lot of beneficial microorganisms. So what will happen when we are dumping a lot of agrochemicals into the soil as well as into the plants? So they will kill the pathogens, they will kill the harmful microorganisms, but they will also kill the beneficial microorganisms as well as insects. So we are losing our agro ecosystem. So that is one of the important drawback of this inorganic thing. So like when we are applying a lot of chemicals, we'll be losing a lot of things. So maybe like you should have heard about a lot of extinct animals as well as birds. So there was a bird called the dodo. Even like I have studied about that when I was doing my school. So these dodos, so they were endemic to some part of some islands. So they used to eat some kind of fruit. So whenever these fruits are taken by this dodo, so the fruits will be consumed by dodo and the seeds will be coming out of its excreta. So these seeds are having these fruits, they are having some kind of hard shell, as well as the seeds are also having some kind of hard shells. So when they are consumed by dodo, so these hard shells will be relaxed, and then these seeds are ready to germinate. So for a particular species of plant, I don't actually remember the name of the tree or the plant. So there is some kind of mutualism between the plant as well as this dodo bird. So when the dodo bird went extinct, this plant species also went extinct. So like everything in the nature, so they are tied to each other. So when something is missing, so it will ultimately cause something great in the future. So when we are about to miss the honeybees, so there will be no more agriculture. So there won't be any kind of food. So like the Albert Einstein, so he's a very famous scientist. So he told if the bee disappeared from the surface of the globe, then the man would have only 4 years of life left. So like even nowadays, they are making some technology. So they are making some kind of artificial bees. So like some kind of engineering. So they are making some bee robots for pollination. So we are in such kind of situation. So these are all the things that are due to the improper practices of agriculture, as well as like improper lifestyle. So that is the thing. So we are losing a lot of beneficial microorganisms as well as insects. So this need to be stopped. So like I took this video from YouTube. So maybe you can just have a look. So apart from applying a lot of agrochemicals as well as fertilizers into the field, so the produce, whatever is being harvested, they are also being like applied with a lot of chemicals. So just look at this video. It's like very shocking to see this kind of things.
और अगर हम बाजार से लाते हो, शाम को जो बासी सब्जी बच जाती है उसमें हम लगाते हैं, सिपरे करते हैं और फिर वो ताजी सब्जी में मिला के और हम बेच आते हैं उसे। फिर कोई मालूम नहीं करता, वो बासी ताजी लगती है। सारी सिपरे जो गाड़ियों पे लगाते हैं, गाड़ी चमक जाती है, इसलिए हम सब्जियों पे, बासी सब्जियों पे लगाते हैं, वो ताजी जैसी लग जाती है और फिर वो मंडी में ले जाते हैं तो वो आसानी से बिक जाती है। ये हम ही नहीं करती, सारा ही जमींदार करता, जो सब्जी को बोता है, खेत से सब्जी तोड़ के लाते हैं और पोते में घेर देते हैं, उसे धो धा के और रंग लगा के और फिर वो जमा के और सुबह मंडी ले जाते हैं। रंग तो ये है जी, वो तो हरी सब्जी में मिलती है जी, और किसी में ज्यादातर हरी सब्जी में। तोरी हुई जी, भिंडी हुई, परमल हुई, बीन्स हुई, इसमें हरा रंग मिला देते हैं और वो ताजी सब्जी लगती है। बाजार में दवाई वाली दुकान है थी, उस पे से ले आते हैं, उस बेल में हम लगाते हैं, वो छोटी लौकी बड़ी हो जाती है, फिर आसानी से हम उसे सुबह तोड़ के बेच आते हैं। और ना लगाए तो हम फिर वो 1 हफ्ता लेती है। 8-10 साल से इस काम कर रहे हैं, महंगाई बढ़ गई है।
So this is the condition. So right now it's like very shocking, right?
Yes, sir.
So, yeah, so like even they are applying a lot of chemicals in the field in order to boost the growth of the plants. So it's very shocking. So like it's the very ill effects of the chemicals. So what will happen to us when we are eating something like this? So the healthy food, it should come from a healthy crop. So how a healthy crop will be produced in the soil? So in order to grow a healthy crop, the soil should be healthy and there should be a healthy environment. So, like instead of applying this kind of inorganic fertilizers like urea or potassium or phosphate or something like that, we can apply the farmyard manure. So agriculture is not just about growing the plants. So, agriculture it's a kind of complex thing. So it is the growing of the plants as well as the livestock. So livestock in the sense it will include both the cattle as well as the poultry, fishes, and everything almost. So it's a kind of integrated agriculture. So you can just search sometime like later if you are interested. You can just study about the integrated agricultural practice. So it's a kind of thing like we'll be growing everything together in a same location. So like we can grow the cattle as well as the sheep or lamb as well as the poultry as well as piggery and then the fishes. So everything they will be cultivated in the same place, and we will be just collecting the waste of this cattle. So probably the cow dung as well as the cow urine. So these things they are being cultivated, and so these are being collected, and we are preparing some kind of mixture. So you should have heard about Panchakavya. Have you heard about Panchakavya? So it's a kind of thing like Panchakavya means it will be including like 5 different ingredients. So probably this cow dung as well as cow urine as well as milk and buttermilk and ghee, something like that. So they will be mixing everything together, and it's a kind of organic amendment to the soil as well as to the plants. So there will be a lot of beneficial microorganisms in the cow dung. So it is having some kind of beneficial microorganisms. So they will be multiplied when we are providing some kind of nutrients. So that's a kind of practice. And again, when we are collecting these waste of these fishes as well as the pigs as well as the sheep as well as the poultry, so they are manure, right? So they are manure. So the animals as well as the birds, they will be consuming the feed, whatever we are giving, and then their excreta is considered as a very nice manure. So these manure can be collected and then they can be applied to the soil. So it is a kind of thing like we are indirectly helping the soil to cure itself. So instead of giving the inorganic fertilizers directly like nitrogen, superphosphate or potassium, we are giving the soil some kind of help in order to cure itself. So when we are collecting this kind of waste and when we are applying it to the soil will be more healthy. So that is the thing. So that's the healthy soil. So when you are applying this kind of farmyard manure, so this is called as farmyard manure because these manure are collected from the farm, from the animals as well as the poultry. So when we are applying a lot of farmyard manure, the soil will become healthy and there will be a lot of earthworm activity. So earthworms, they are kind of mostly they are regarded as the friends of farmers. So whenever there are a lot of earthworms in the soil, so the texture of the soil also will change. So the earthworms, they will be just moving here and there. So they will just make a lot of tunnels. So they will create a lot of aeration in the soil. So they will consume the soil, and they will consume means not the soil, maybe the organic material, whatever we are applying. So for example, this farmyard manure, so that will be consumed by the earthworms, and then it will be a little bit partially digested, and then this earthworm casings will be left out throughout the field. So these are added nutrients. So these kind of things are making the soil more healthy rather than applying some kind of artificial synthetic fertilizers. So that's how a healthy soil and healthy environment will be created. So with the microfauna as well as microflora, so both the insects, beneficial insects as well as microorganisms, they will make the healthy agro ecosystem. So when the crops are cultivated in this healthy environment, they will be producing the healthy produce. So the healthy food will be coming from the healthy crop. So this thing is a kind of eco-friendly approach. So that's the thing, whatever I have told before. So that's a kind of general practice in order to grow the plants. So now coming to especially for the insects as well as pests. So it is called as biological control. So biological crop health management. So we'll be just looking into that. So the benefits of biological control. So biological control, especially this terminology, it means the utilization of the beneficial insects for the management of harmful insects. Utilization of the beneficial microorganisms for the management of the harmful microorganisms that cause disease. So that's what biological control is. So that is the meaning for biological control. So these biological control, of course, they are eco-friendly because they do not have any chemicals. We are just directly multiplying these microorganisms and applying it to the field. We are multiplying the beneficial insects and releasing them into the field so that they will be having no toxic effect, and they do not affect the beneficial insects or beneficial microorganisms. And of course, they are cost efficient, and then they will prevent the pest resurgence. So here in this picture, you can see, so the microorganisms, they're just punching the antibiotic capsule. So you should have heard about the resurgence, like antibiotic resistance. Have you heard about that? Antibiotic resistance?
Yeah, some sort of like immunity power for the plant or something like that.
Means like the immunity of the microorganism, the harmful microorganism will be increased. Like so what happens is, like every year they are designing and inventing new drugs. So new medicines as well as antibiotics are being invented every year. So why we are not able to use the medicines that are invented 100 years back? So what is the reason?
Because those are primitive.
Because they will be like creating resistance for the microorganisms. So yeah, someone raised the hand. Wanted to say something?
Because even microorganisms are evolving, so the
Yeah.
medicines made 100 years ago won't be effective.
Excellent, excellent. So that's the thing. So the microorganisms, they will evolve. So like we are also evolving, right? So like even before us, the microorganisms, they were present in the earth. So they know how to adapt better than us. So we are adapting, like when we are having a lot of like what to say, when the temperature is high, we are purchasing AC and we are sitting inside an air conditioned room. And when there is, it's much cool, we are turning on the heater and we are making ourselves comfortable, right? So we are evolving. So the same way, the microorganisms also will evolve. So the drugs that were discovered 100 years back, so they will be capable of killing the microorganism. So there should be some kind of mechanism. So for example, some of the drugs, so they will be interfering with some kind of genes in the microorganisms. For example, there was a fungicide called carbendazim. So that was interfering with the beta-tubulin gene in the fungus. So what happened is like the fungus, so it acquired the knowledge that this fungicidal molecule is killing me because it is able to identify my beta-tubulin gene. So what happened, this fungus, it modified its beta-tubulin gene. So some mutations took place and this fungicide was no more able to recognize this beta-tubulin gene. So the same thing occurred in the human pathology also. So like the bacteria, so we are consuming a lot of antibacterial antibiotics. So each and everything will be having its individual mode of action. So these individual mode of actions are being recognized by these microorganisms, and these microorganisms will become resistant to that because it is evolving. So it will be just getting mutated. It will change its genome, it will change its gene, and it will change its behavior in order to resist these medicines. So that's what happening with the antibiotics in the human pathology as well as in the field of agriculture. So even like they are discovering a lot of fungicidal and bactericidal molecules like every year. So they are becoming like unused, like they are becoming incapable after few years of usage. So that problem is because of the pest resurgence. Okay, so we say the terminology with pest resurgence. So pest as well as disease resurgence. So it means the microorganisms, they will evolve and they are able to adapt and they are able to overcome the effect of these chemicals. So this cannot be like, this thing will be a very dangerous thing. So when we are going for biological control, so this can be stopped. So how, in the sense like the biocontrol organism, so it is also a living organism, right? So that will also evolve. Okay, so when the deer evolves, the lion also evolves, right? So that's the concept. So like these biocontrol organisms, so they are also a live microorganisms, so they evolve. And most importantly, for these biocontrol organisms, so they don't have a single mode of action. So if you take a chemical, it will have a single mode of action, or probably sometimes like 2 or 3 different mode of actions. So but these biocontrol organisms, so the microorganisms, they will be having multiple mode of actions. So we will look at the different type of actions, like different modes in the forthcoming slides. So they will be having different concepts for the for overcoming the pathogens. So due to that, this pest resurgence can be suppressed. Okay, so these are the benefits of utilization of the biocontrol organisms. So here in this thing, so let us start with the insects. So you can just see some videos so that it will be very much interesting. So have you ever heard about the mealy bugs? Have you seen in the field? So most probably it will be associated with the fruits, maybe like papaya and a lot of fruits, maybe also in banana, almost everything. So this mealybug is a kind of most important pest all over the world, and it is capable of infecting a lot of agricultural crops. So it's having a very, very wide host range. So here you can see this is a mealybug. So it is being consumed by a beneficial insect. So here you can see a praying mantis. So this is a praying mantis. So you can see it is infecting a grasshopper. So you can see this praying mantis is consuming a grasshopper. So grasshoppers, they are a kind of like a very aggressive pathogens. So when these grasshoppers, they will join together, they are called as locust. So they will completely eat the whole plant. So see, this is a beneficial insect. It is eating a grasshopper. And see here, it is a beetle, so that it eats the mealybug. And this is a kind of a wasp-like thing. So it is called as Acirophagus papayi. So it will be just laying its eggs over the mealybugs. So what will happen is this egg will hatch inside the mealybug, and then it will just eat the mealybug, and then the mealybug is killed. So these are different kind of beneficial insects. So that will be that can be used for the agriculture. And with relevant to this Acirophagus papayi, so like it is utilized in India. So like almost they have made some statistics, like after this introduction of this parasitoid into India, like 4 crore rupees is saved every year. So to be spent on the agrochemicals, so it is saved. So these are some of the beneficial insects that are used for managing the harmful insects. So coming to our subject, so ours is the plant diseases. So before going into the management of the plant diseases, I would like to show you some interesting pictures of the microorganisms, so especially fungi. So I'm very much interested in photography. So like let us see some of the interesting pictures. So as I already told you, like some of the diseases we have seen previously in the slides. So some of the diseases. So before going into the diseases, let us see something like which is more commonly used, whatever it is visible to the naked eye. So here you can see the mushrooms. I think like most of you should have been eating mushrooms. So most of you should love mushrooms. So it is one of the tastiest recipe. So like so when you just turn the button mushroom, so this is a kind of button mushroom. So there are different kinds of mushrooms. So that's also coming under plant pathology because it's fungi, right? So like when you just so do you know like why it is called as button mushroom?
Is it because they look like one?
Yeah, so look like, but still to be more specific, all the mushrooms, they will look like button. But when they are growing like older and older, so this portion, so this will just get opened and then it will just expose the gills of this mushroom. So like these muttons, these mushrooms are being harvested at the button stage. So this stage is called as button stage. So that's why this mushroom is called as button mushroom. So other mushrooms, they do not be they are not harvested in this stage, and they may not be looking like buttons, like as you told. So the shape as well as the stage of the harvest. So that's why it is called as button mushroom. So when they mature more, so they will be opening up the gills. So when you just turn down the mushroom, like in the lower surface, you'll be able to see this kind of gills. So this is like what is visible to the naked eye. So when you are just magnifying this portion, it will be looking like this. So this is probably like 4x magnification. So you can see some kind of a thing that is protruding. So when you just still magnify, you can see some spores. When you still magnify, you can see these spores. So there will be like millions of spores inside these gills. So we are consuming these spores. Actually, it is tasty, but we are consuming this fungi. Okay, so we are consuming these spores. Okay, so these spores, they will be drifted in the air, and they are just being drifted in the air, and then they will just fall over different places, and then they will just multiply, and then they will produce new mushrooms. So this is a kind of mode of propagation of this fungi. Okay. So coming to Aspergillus, so this is a very common thing, like the bread mold. So whenever you are having some old bread left out in your house, due to like a high humidity, you will be able to see this kind of moldy growth over the bread, as well as corn, and especially in onions. So in Indian conditions, we will never be able to purchase a good onion from the vegetable shop without this kind of moldy growth. So like we need to go for some kind of like best supermarkets in order to get the best onions. If not, if you're just buying it from the roadside shops, definitely will be having this kind of black growth. So they are actually a fungus. So this is how it will be looking like under like some 2x magnification. So you can see some kind of structure. So this is actually from the bread. So see how beautiful it is looking like. So this is like under 5x magnification. You can see some structures. So this is under 5x magnification, and this is under 20x magnification. So you can see plenty of spores that are produced like a chain, like a ball. And when they just break open, it will be looking like this. So these spores are also will be just drifting in the air. So it is a kind of mode of propagation. So this thing I told you about the rust disease. So like this is what we are able to see with our naked eyes. Okay. So like from this individual rust pustule, so here you can see the individual rust pustule. So it will be looking like this. Okay. So if you still magnify, it will be looking like this. So this is the green color thing is the plant tissue. And from the plant tissue, these spores are just tearing off the plant tissue, and they are just exposing out. So these things will be drifted in the air. So see how beautiful it is. So when going for 50x magnification, you will be able to see some kind of spikes over the surface of these spores. So in 20x, you cannot see these spikes. So in 50x, you can see some spikes. So these spikes are some adaptation of these microorganisms not to hold over the surface of the leaves. Okay, so these are some of the things just to trigger your interest regarding the plant pathogens. So these are some of the fungus that cause the disease. Okay, so how these microorganisms are recognized by the plants? So we have eyes, nose, and ears. So we can recognize a person when someone is standing before us, or when someone is calling us, we can hear them, or we can also smell, right? Okay, so what about the plants? So they don't have any kind of sensory organisms. So how they can interact with the microorganism? So here the things become interested. Like the plants, they will produce some, so you know, like they are producing photosynthesis. So whenever they are producing photosynthesis, they will produce a lot of carbohydrates, and like almost like 90% of the carbohydrates or the carbon source that is being produced is left unused. So only like 5 to 10% is used by the plants. So the remaining things, they are just being exuded as the root exudates. So they are excreted by the plants. So these carbon molecules that are exuded by the roots, they will be attracting the microorganism. So that is how a pathogen or a beneficial microorganism is able to recognize the presence of a plant, and then it will be attracted. So it will be present in some other part of the soil, but due to the excretion of this plant, so the root exudate, it will be getting attracted, and then it will just find out a plant. So similarly, the plant will also have some kind of receptors so that it will recognize the presence of the microorganism. So these microorganisms, it may be beneficial or harmful.
By the year 2050.
So like we have a video here. I think like I'm running out of time. We still have a lot of things to see. So maybe I can share you this video so that it will be, you can just look in the free time. So this video is about like how the plants are recognizing the microorganisms. So here you can see, so in the soil, so you can see a lot of different kind of microorganisms like protozoa, bacteria, fungi.
Fungi or Pseudomonas bacteria can be beneficial.
So some of them will be pathogenic, some of them will be beneficial. So in 1 teaspoon of soil, you can see like millions of microorganisms will be present.
Different roles in this. It cannot hunt for food elsewhere or
So when the plants are exuding the root exudates, so these root exudates will be like attracting the microorganisms, okay? So that the microorganisms will find out the plant and then it will colonize the surface of the plant. So when the beneficial microorganisms are colonizing the surface of the plant root, there will no more be space for the pathogens to enter. So it's a kind of competition. So competition for space as well as for nutrients. So the beneficial microorganisms, once they are colonizing these root regions, there won't be any space and nutrients available for the harmful microorganisms. So this is a kind of mode of action by the biocontrol organism. Okay.
$100 million microorganisms, predominantly bacteria, but also actinomycetes and fungi. Most of them are saprocytes, which means they break down dead organic matter. But a small number can infect living plants and cause soil-borne plant diseases. These are usually referred to as soil-borne pathogens. In contrast, another group of microorganisms.
So here you can see the things that are in the black, so they are harmful microorganisms. So those things that are in purple color, they are beneficial microorganisms. So in the soil, both of them are present, right? So how the beneficial microorganisms are trying to protect the plants, you can see in this video.
Living in the soil can have an antagonistic effect on the pathogens under the right conditions. They are known as microbial antagonists. There are four main ways how microbial antagonists affect pathogens in the soil.
So there are different methods. So one thing will be direct. So the biocontrol organisms, they will just interact with the pathogen. It will directly kill that, okay?
1. Direct parasitism and death of the pathogen. 2. Competition with the pathogen for
so competition for space as well as nutrients in the root zone. So when it is completely colonizing the root zone, no more space and no more nutrients. So the pathogen will not be able to cause disease. So that's another mechanism.
or a favorable habitat or niche. 3. Direct toxic effects on.
So these biocontrol organisms, they are also capable of producing some kind of toxic substance. So that are toxic only for the harmful microorganisms. So they are not toxic for the plants as well as not toxic for other beneficial microorganisms. So they are toxic just for the harmful microorganism. So that is another kind of mechanism.
Pathogen by antibiotic-like substances. And 4. Indirect toxic effects on the pathogens by volatile substances produced by the antagonist.
So the biocontrol agents, they will also produce some kind of gaseous compounds that are like volatile antibiotics. So that will also kill the harmful microorganisms. So these are different kind of mechanisms for the biocontrol agents.
1 gram.
Okay. So some of the important biocontrol agents like Bacillus species and Pseudomonas species. So these are some of the beneficial bacterial organisms. And Trichoderma, it's a kind of beneficial fungal organism. So these are the different kind of mechanisms. So like a direct competition for nutrients and space, and then antibiosis is the production of toxic chemicals, and then the production of lytic enzymes. So lytic enzymes and hyperparasitism, in the sense, the beneficial microorganisms will be producing some lytic enzymes. So they will lyse the cell wall of the pathogen. So they will lyse the cell wall of the pathogen, and the pathogen will be devoured by the beneficial microorganism. So that is called as hyperparasitism. So apart from that, there is an indirect method. So that is induced systemic resistance. So when we are applying these microorganisms, they will be just be recognized by the plant system, so that they will be boosting the immunity of the plants indirectly, so that the plants will be capable of fighting against the pathogens. So the plants also will have some kind of reinforcements, like they will also capable of producing some kind of phenolics as well as some of the chemical compounds in order to restrict the growth of the pathogens. So these things will be triggered by the beneficial microorganisms. So that is called as induced systemic resistance. So these are some different kind of mode of actions. So something in detail. So I have given something in detail. So I think we don't have much time. You can just look at the pictures. So here you can see this is a healthy pathogen. So this is a healthy pathogen. And here in the right side picture, you can see the beneficial bacteria that is completely covering the pathogen, so that the pathogen will be killed. And then the pathogen will not be able to grow. It will not be able to cause disease. And here you can see this is a beneficial fungi, and this is a pathogenic fungi. So this beneficial fungi is just coiling over the pathogenic fungi. It is secreting some lysis enzyme so that it is making some holes in the cells of the harmful microorganism. So what will happen when there are some holes? So the electrolytic leakage will be there. So you know what will happen when we are getting wounded, so the blood will come out. So similarly in case of the fungi, so the electrolytic leakage will occur and then the pathogen will be killed. So these are some different kind of mechanisms. So these are some of the laboratory techniques in order to study how the microorganisms like are beneficial. So here you can see this is the pathogen, and here you can see the beneficial bacteria. So you can see this beneficial bacteria is restricting the growth of the pathogen. It is not allowing the pathogen to grow near the beneficial bacteria. So when we are applying this beneficial bacteria, it will be protecting the plants. So similarly here you can see the beneficial. So this green one is the trichoderma. So that is the beneficial fungi. And in the right side, you can see the pathogen. So this beneficial fungi, it stopped the growth of the pathogen, as well as it started to grow over the pathogen, and it just started to devour the pathogen. So these are some of the laboratory techniques. So here you can see this is a time-lapse video. So here the green one is the beneficial and the white one is the harmful fungi. You can see it is continuously growing and it is stopping the growth of the pathogen. Okay, so these are some of the concepts that the microorganisms, they are like directly having some effect over disease management, as well as they are promoting the plant growth by mobilizing some of the nutrients, as well as fixing nitrogen. So I think you should have studied about nitrogen fixing bacteria. So these are the things. So like when we are treating the plants with biocontrol agents, there will be beneficial microorganisms in the root as well as in the leaves of the plant, so that the plant will be happy, it will produce more yield. So when there is no biocontrol agents, it will be completely infected with the pathogens. So that's it. So like it is a very, very big and vast subject. So it need plenty of time. So I think I just made an overview of the subject so that you'll be able to grasp something about this topic. So I'm also like very much interested to answer your questions. You can send me email anytime so that I'll be able to answer your questions. So if you have any questions, you can just also ask me now. It's open up for discussion. Yeah, please.
So my question was, we saw that these vegetables and the food we consume are sprayed with a lot of pesticides and fungicides. So what we can do from our home is to clean them properly before eating. But how, in what effective ways can we do this, sir?
To be more cautious, we can consume the organic produce. So I'm unsure about the foreign countries, but like I have seen, like when I was in Canada, there will be a separate row for the organic vegetables. So mostly you can prefer the organic vegetables, so that will be better. But it is not feasible, maybe like not economically feasible, and it is not possible to consume everything in an organic way. So not everything is available in organic manner. So whatever the best thing you can do is like you can just try to wash it as much as possible. So before cooking, and mostly try to make a better cooking. So like cook it completely so that it should be good. Yeah. And whatever like we do, sometimes these residual toxicity, these toxic compounds will be present inside the plant tissue. So we cannot escape from that anyway. So maybe we can take some more good food so that the residual toxicity, that toxic compounds present inside our body shall be eliminated. So that is the thing we can do.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, welcome.
Sir, I have a question. Like you said, the Panchagavya, it fertilizes the soil very much. So instead of promoting this artificial fertilizers, can we just bring up such Panchagavya in commercially to build up a good agriculture and banning those artificial ones?
Yeah, it can be done. So we cannot ban the artificial one because like it is giving a lot of yield. So if we are banning the inorganic agriculture, again the people they will starve for the food. So we can just slowly and progressively bring out the organic agriculture. So this Panchagavya, it is like already on sale. Like there are a lot of organic plant growth stimulators already available in the market. So if you can just try to Google out, like you can just try to find out that. So in India, like there are a lot of companies, they are mass multiplying these beneficial microorganisms like Bacillus, Pseudomonas, and Trichoderma. They are available in like some bottles. So you can just buy them, and you can just make some formulations like dilutions like 10 ml per liter of water, and then you can just apply it. So that will be having a better effect. So the most important drawback of this biological control is you cannot expect immediate effect. And most importantly, it will not be like when there is a pathogen is present, if you are just going to apply the biocontrol agent, then it will be like having a slow effect. So the thing is like it should be constantly applied. So the microorganism should be constantly present in the soil so that it will be having a better effect rather than immediate effect. So that is the
Thank
thing.
you, sir.
Yeah, welcome. Any questions?
If anyone have any more questions, please raise your hands.
Okay, Fida, then we can wind up.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Sir, could you stop your presentation?
Yeah, just a moment. Yeah.
Thank you, sir, for such an interactive session, for taking time out of your busy schedule and endowing us with such a productive and priceless session. This is a token of gratitude from the students of NIMS Dubai.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Now I welcome Irene Paul to put forward the vote of thanks.
A very warm and grateful evening to all. It's my privilege to propose a vote of thanks and acknowledge the contribution of those who worked really hard to make this day happen. An event like this cannot happen overnight. The wheels started rolling weeks ago. It requires planning and a bird's eye for detail. We have been fortunate enough to be backed by a team of very proactive and dedicated students of our school who are well versed in their job. On behalf of my school, I extend a really hearty vote of thanks to our chief guest, Dr. Vinod Kumar Selvaraj, who spared time from his busy schedule to grace the occasion and shed light on beneficial microorganisms, a potential for eco-friendly agriculture. Today we have had an opportunity to hear your thoughts, and this will truly be going to encourage us in our future events. Your thoughts have enlightened our minds and have shown us a new path. I'm immensely thankful to our principal, Ms. Karen Robinson, Vice Principal, Ms. Sindhu Samit, HOS, supervisors who provided us a platform for this event. I also extend sincere gratitude to all the teachers for their enormous cooperation within the organization of this science week. A special mention to our respected Irfana ma'am for being a pillar of strength in this event. With a deep sense of appreciation, we thank you for your untiring efforts. Last but not the least, a big thank you to each one of you who made this day memorable for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you,
very much.
Irene. I now request everyone to stand at attention for the UAE National Anthem, followed by the Indian National Anthem.
عيشي بلادي عاش اتحاد إماراتنا عشتي لشعب دينه الإسلام هديه القرآن حصنتك بسم الله يا وطن بلادي 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 حماك الإله شرور الزمان أقسمنا أن نبني نعمل نعمل نخلص نعمل نخلص مهما عشنا نخلص نخلص دام الأمان وعاش العلم يا إماراتنا رمز العروبة كلنا نبنيك بالدماء نرويك نبنيك بالأرواح يا وطن
And with that,